Hello, I'm Camille Crittenden, Executive Director of CITRIS, the Center for Information Technology Research in the Interest of Society at the University of California. I'm the moderator of the session on enhancing diverse collaborations in the research ecosystem. Thank you for joining us. This presentation is one of 3 pre-recorded videos focusing on individual speakers' material before all the panelists will come together in February during the live discussion. In this video, Alejandro Adem, President of the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, will discuss how funding programs can catalyze the necessary changes in the university system. Midway through the video, Lauren Whitehead, Special Advisor on Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Research, and Professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of British Columbia, will join Alejandro to further delve into the material. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to talk to you today. So I am the president of the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada. I'll tell you a bit about our organization and then focus in on the projects, on the activities that we do, which are well aligned with HIBAR, not only in the intention, but also in implementation. So first of all, let me tell you then a bit about our role. So NSERC stands for Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, and our mandate is to support research and training in all the areas of the natural sciences and engineering. So we fund post-secondary research and training, and our budget is approximately $1.3 billion Canadian. And we work with 78 universities and 110 colleges and polytechnics. A number of professors that we support are around 12,500, 3,800 industry partnerships, and close to 38,000 students and fellows. We see science, research, and training as a spectrum going from the blue skies, discovery, research, practically all the way to commercialization. And we have different programs that address different aspects of that mandate and try, whenever possible, to mobilize the fantastic research being developed in Canada's universities. I must say that we're very proud of the quality of the research being done in Canadian universities, which is world-class, and addressing the challenge of mobilizing the wonderful research that's done there to have an impact on society, on Canada, and indeed the world, is one of our big challenges and one of the key mandates that we want to deliver on. So how does our budget break down? So this is to inform folks who perhaps are not as familiar with NSERC as people in Canada are. So 727 million is invested in discovery research. And that's research which is not targeted, which is not necessarily mandated to connect to outside players. Then we have 393 million for research partnerships. That's a part of our portfolio that is targeted at partnering, as it says, partnering the researcher, the research groups and labs with partners in, whether it be in industry, not-for-profit, international, or other governments. And we will be talking in some detail about some programs in that direction. We obviously invest a lot in research, talent, and training, 155 million, and of course the obvious administrative costs. So that is the budget breakdown in Canadian dollars. Now, in this session, we're talking about HIBAR research, which I'll recall for you, it means highly integrative, basic, and responsive. And here's the diagram as to how you see HIBAR research as an intersection. So I'm going to talk then a bit about how we address some of the challenges in HIBAR. And I want to give particular focus to one of our programs. Now, one could argue that all our programs have elements of HIBAR and increasingly more and more aspects of what HIBAR is. However, I want to talk about the partnership programs, which I think are much more specifically designed to address the challenges of HIBAR, which HIBAR means to address also, and how it's, I think, fairly well aligned with that. Of course, it's always work in progress. One of the nice things about Alliance is that it's a very flexible program, and it's been evolving over time, over the past 2 or 3 years, to sort of meet the needs and requirements of a variety of players and stakeholders in Canada and around the world. So what are the program objectives for Alliance? Well, first of all, to support research in the natural sciences and engineering led by strong complementary collaborative teams. So of course, research excellence is a key and important aspect of everything we do. But also the notion of collaboration and teams is very, I think, fundamental for large-scale projects. We want to enable collaborations with a broader set of partner organizations, whether they be private, public, or not-for-profit sectors. The idea here is that investments in research can then unlock much larger investments across sectors, whether they be private, not-for-profit, or other government. And we think of Alliance as the key that will unlock those leveraged contributions, focusing on a bigger research mandate that can address the challenges, the problems that Canada and the world are facing. We want to create economic, social, and/or environmental benefits. As you know, the world, and especially now, of course, with the pandemic, we've seen the impact of science and the solutions that are being manufactured as we speak to address the pandemic. But there are many challenges. Climate change is one, microplastics is another, all sorts of environmental and technological challenges that need to be addressed. So we want to create those benefits out of the research that we are funding. We want, moreover, to remove barriers and provide more flexibility in building partnerships that will effectively generate new knowledge and accelerate the application of research results for the benefit of Canadians. How do you accelerate the application and the benefits coming from the blue skies discovery research? This is, I think, a top priority for the companies and for the government, which is funding that research. And of course, training is a key ingredient. We want to train you research in areas that are important to Canada and to the partners. And I should say that all of NSERC's programs are anchored in the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion. We want the people being trained, the people working who afterwards go and work with the companies to reflect the Canadian population and to have the appropriate diversity in the composition of the teams. This is, of course, work in progress, but we care a lot, and all our grants are evaluated with an EDI focus. Now, I'm going to tell you a bit about the Alliance grants then, drilling down a bit into details. So the key things to note with this program, first of all, the flexibility. It can range from 20,000, so this would be like a starter idea, a starting project, an engage idea, to 1 million per year, and the durations are 1 to 5 years. We find that this flexibility in the formatting is key, and it's essential for trying to establish these HIBAR collaborations. No deadline, apply at any time. Artificial deadlines, say October 1, once a year, tend to throw people back by months, if not years at a time. So we want to have deadlines that are reflective of what's happening in the real world, that things can happen at any time. Streamlined review process. Again, we want to make sure that we use the review process, the peer review that we have for our discovery research in order to be able to mobilize that research in a timely way for these Alliance projects, instead of having to duplicate some of those procedures. International collaborations can be incorporated at the proposal stage. Our view is that high quality projects necessarily must involve international partners. Science, innovation are international endeavors, and Canada very much believes in international collaboration. Canada is a country that's open to trade, both in and out, and obviously the flow of innovation, knowledge, research is extremely important for Canada, for Canadians. and indeed we think for the rest of the world. Interdisciplinary, 30% of the grants can be spent on disciplines outside natural sciences and engineering. So we're trying to create a situation where the projects can address challenges across several areas. Of course, we are mandated to focus on natural sciences and engineering. We have other agencies that focus on social sciences or health sciences who have their own separate programs. But wherever possible, we're trying to coordinate and align the programs of the three agencies. So that's an important point, important topic of coordination, which is ongoing work being done in the Canadian ecosystem. So we have, there's one funding opportunity and two options. And both options have the same objectives, evaluation criteria, same peer review process for overall merit assessment, same academic community and types of partner organizations are served, and the same requirements for the recognition of partner organizations. I should say that we work, some of these projects not only involve universities, they also involve colleges. In Canada, colleges are focused much more on applied research, doing some valuable work in communities across the country on applied research, and we have some programs specifically tailored for that community. So the option one, the grant size is 20,000 to 1 million per year. And the cost sharing is 50% to 2/3 from NSERC. Again, here, one of the things that we see is that the matching, putting money on the table that can then be matched by the organizations, the outside organization, is a very important device for creating a kind of a virtuous cycle for investment in R&D. The idea is that if a valuable product is developed, if some good, a strong, resilient company evolves, then afterwards the private sector or other sectors will pick up the funding for the organization. The second option, here the funding is up to 90 to 100% from NSERC. Here we understand that there are certain options that need to get off the ground, and you can think of this as a more vigorous intervention. There has to be at least one partner organization, and their contributions have to be recognized for cost sharing, even if NSERC is providing 100% of the funding. So we feel that these two options kind of cover the sorts of goals that we want to achieve. And in option two, what's very important is that societal impact, connections, and broad outcomes are emphasized. So, and there are some specific aspects, characteristics that must be satisfied to qualify for option two. So for further details about the procedures, I refer you to our website. Now, let me give you a few examples of projects that align with HIBAR principles, including sustained urgency. Here we have, the first one is iPOCUS, an intelligent point-of-care ultrasound system for neonatal intensive care units in Canada's hospitals. This is a collaboration between Rider University with Dapasoft Incorporated. The second one, sustainable indoor intelligent aquaponics farming based on Industry 4.0. This is the University of Alberta with Nutraponics Canada Corporation. The third one, high-resolution climate projections for municipal risk assessment and resilience planning. This is a partnership between the University of Regina with the City of Edmonton. So now here we're seeing different universities of different size, different profile, working with companies and with municipalities, in this case, City of Edmonton, to address important challenges. On the international front, so this is a very recent development. So this is the joint Canada-UK projects on quantum technologies. 8 grants were awarded to share £2 million from UKRI, and practically 4.5 million investments from Canada to foster research collaborations between academia, industry, and government partners in the quantum sector. These are collaborative projects to fund quantum technologies in the fields of secure communications, sensing and imaging, and computing and simulation. Canada is at the forefront of a lot of the research in quantum information, quantum technology, indeed quantum science. We're very proud of the accomplishments of our researchers, and there have been some very serious investments in creating that research potential. And now what we see developing is the quantum industry, quantum sector, quantum technologies, where the development of that sector requires constant supply of new research ideas. So it's an example of how technologies which are going towards the market require a constant infusion of research ideas, of trainees, and sort of developing the whole sector. Here you see the partnerships: University of Waterloo with Bristol University, University of Waterloo with University College London, Université Sherbrooke and Oxford, University of Waterloo with Bristol, Saskatchewan with Nottingham, et cetera, et cetera. So you see that we have universities partnering together as part of these collaborations. And here I'll give you three examples. The first one is a reference frame for independent quantum communication for satellite-based networks. And you see companies and universities involved. The second one, advanced manufacturing toolkit for quantum sensing and quantum computing. And the third one, making noisy quantum processors practical from theory to applications. And we're proud of the fact that these projects, the funding was announced in March, and the grants were awarded announced in November. So the turnaround, even during the pandemic, was remarkably swift. And we work very well with our colleagues in the UK on this. And this is for us kind of the prototype of Alliance International, as I would like to call it. And we are repurposing a certain amount of the funding for these international projects. Now, we can also fund platforms for societal co-leadership and public impact. Here are three examples. Whale Science for the Future, where we're partnering with Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Obviously, whales and their science is a key priority for Canada, given that Canada has 3 coasts. The second one, advancing climate change science in Canada. And the first one was a partnership with Fisheries and Oceans Canada. The second one is a partnership with Environment and Climate Change Canada and Health Canada. And there is the creation of a pan-Canadian framework on clean growth and climate change. Again, a top priority for our government, and what this partnership does is that it unleashes the research in the universities on problems that the government scientists would like to work on. So we kind of bring together government science with university science, and that is, I think, leads to a lot of beneficial impacts. The third one, plastic science for a cleaner future, again with ECCC, and there the topic is Canada's Plastic Science Agenda, CAPSA. So obviously, plastics are a big source of concern, and we want to deal with that in a timely manner. So there's a toolkit for research partnerships. I want to draw particular attention to the website cognit.ca, which was put together by our colleagues at the top universities in Canada, the U15, top research intensive universities. And you can find the experts and partners looking at cognit.ca, as well, of course, as our own awards database. And we have a dashboard where you can look at our investments and partnerships. And of course, our website more generally has that information. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Alejandro. It was a wonderful presentation. I greatly enjoyed it. And I do have some questions that are related to it that I'd really like to discuss with you. HIBAR research projects must have 2 distinct strengths from the start and throughout. These are basic research that is relevant to the societal problem in question, and also an urgent application focus that is required to address that problem. As you've said, this requires co-leadership by scholarly researchers and societal experts, which of course requires extra effort. Now, the NSERC Alliance 2 program in particular clearly encourages research of this type. Do you feel that universities could do more to guide applicants in successfully developing Alliance 2 project proposals?
I think that's a very good question. Yeah, I definitely agree that universities could do more to guide and encourage researchers to work on this kind of project. I would like to see universities step up a bit more of the convener role, where they could bring in their researchers, their strong research representatives, and invite folks from industry, from society, if not-for-profits, to discuss at a very high level the kinds of challenges that they'd like to see addressed. After which proposals could be prepared. And of course, we grind out all the details of the funding mechanism. And that's where our excellent staff can assist with the technicalities. But that high-level meeting of the minds, I think that's what universities are supposed to be about. They're not supposed to be about siloed academic research. It's really supposed to be about the impact on society. So I really would encourage universities to step up and create sort of safe spaces where this kind of discussion can take place that will afterwards lead to, I think, would be some very exciting high-bar research projects.
Naturally, the Alliance 2 program is limited in scope at this time. Also, government funding agencies and foundations in other countries are heading in this same direction. Do you see opportunities for greater collaborative efforts between funders to help accelerate HIBAR research?
Well, absolutely. I think it's all about collaboration. If you're paying 100% for something, then you're doing something wrong. There has to be leveraging across jurisdictions, whether they be subnational or international. So what we've developed is a partnership approach, which involves working with partners, not only from industry and not-for-profits, but also government partners, as you saw in some of our previous examples, other government entities here in Canada. We also have some agreements with provincial governments, recently announced one with province of Ontario, province of Alberta, and next will be one with the province of Quebec. And internationally, I think it's especially important because, you know, a country like Canada cannot be isolated from developments that are happening in the rest of the world. I'm very proud of the joint call for proposals that we did with the UK on quantum. It was kind of a prototype, a pilot of the kind of approach we want to take. And now what we're doing is restructuring our international program through the Alliance, and what I mentioned before, the Alliance International, where we can bring in the partners to create sufficient funding to address these big challenges that we know several countries are interested in. And we are getting folks who have approached us, folks from Europe, from North America, the different parts of the world, to address particular challenges where they are well aligned with the goals that Canada wants to meet. So I think it's a very exciting time. And HIBAR seems to me a philosophy which just fits in perfectly with this idea of us partnering to collaborate, to have impact on society.
Thank you very much. Has NSERC faced structural barriers associated with funding research collaborations of this type? For example, in some cases, there might be a greater need for sub-awards. And I wonder if the Alliance 2 program in particular has addressed a variety of needs of this type.
Alliance 2 aim to be as flexible as possible. And if you can think of a funding program which listens to the researchers and the community and then adjusts accordingly, that's, I think, what would describe Alliance. And now Alliance has the benefit that it was only created 2 or 3 years ago as a consolidation of some long-standing programs. So I think of it as a modern 21st century science and innovation program. And one of the key criticisms of many programs is the rigidity and lack of receptiveness to the community that some of the older programs have. So I feel that Alliance has benefited from its recent creation, the fact that it was created in consultation with the community. Of course, there are always challenges. You know, when you work in a funding agency, you learn that there are multiple rules, multiple regulations that have to be satisfied. But we want to create sort of common sense guidelines that, based on principles, that would allow the researchers and the different organizations working with them to stay within would be the acceptable lines. Another issue, of course, is about safety of research security. Again, creating some safe lanes for the research that is being created and then applied, looking for societal impact. So I would say it's an ongoing challenge for us to address. inputting from the communities and also from the universities, and I would say the research offices at the different universities across the country.
Thank you very much. And now I'll move on to the fourth and last question. Many basic research projects that are both inspired by use and deeply engaged with society require 5 to up to 15 years or more of sustained effort to achieve their goals. To help bring these projects to fruition, is a multi-phased funding structure more appropriate? If so, what metrics could research funders implement to measure progress during these multiple project stages?
Well, unpacking that question would, I think, take us a few hours. But definitely, I see a lot of value in having catalyst awards, small awards that will kind of show a little bit of proof of concept, create a partnership. And then from there, based on the success, move on to a bigger partnership and bringing in more players. So we do have that, and that is a definite potential. In the recent COVID-19 crisis, we had some special alliance grants, Alliance COVID-19, and we funded a few hundred projects. These were small projects, some of which will now result in bigger activities, bigger partnerships focused on pandemics. So now the question about long-term, I think that's one of the challenges of the funding agencies and what you do about, say, the 10-year horizon. We understand that certain technologies require sustained support from the funding sources for longer periods of time. How can we guarantee that? So that's something that we are seeking to address through the Alliance. We have a 5-year limit there, but of course there's a possibility, always possibility of renewal or reconfiguration. But keeping an eye on that is important. And you mentioned metrics. What are the metrics that will, in the end, prevail? There are, of course, the human metrics, of course, which have to do with training, and certainly equity, diversity, and inclusion is important. We want to train the new generation of scientists and engineers as part of these projects. And that's not just, of course, to become academics, but also just to be in society, entrepreneurs, people in business, teachers, you name it. So that's a very important one. The other one, of course, are the technologies. Canada, of course, wants to create its own source of technologies, IP, which will afterwards lead to startups and companies which can scale up and kind of compete internationally. So there's some point where, of course, we have to hand it over to the folks more focused on commercialization. But how do you do a smooth transition there? That is a topic. You know, I had a meeting with a group of venture capitalists, and they said, well, how can we put the NSERC programs into our bottom line so that it looks like a positive? And then how can we coordinate the handoff to the real experts in the creation of companies? So these are topics which I think we are addressing, not in a fully satisfactory manner yet, but I think the whole community. And here we have to be talking, of course, to the companies, to the entrepreneurs, in the appropriate setting with the not-for-profits, with society, and the researchers, and how it is that we create a virtuous cycle where it isn't just the government funding it permanently, but there is kind of a ramp off where these will then grow, become sustainable, independent. And we have to be willing to accept that many will have to die off, right? That, you know, we know what the ratios should be in terms of success. I tell people that when I'm working on a mathematical theorem, I fail 1,000 times until I get the actual proof. So we have to be willing to accept numbers of failure. Failure is an excellent part of what happens in science and in the economy, and then build from those experiences in a constructive and positive way.
So thank you, Alejandro and Lauren, for that excellent presentation and discussion. I think we can all take away a lot of important and valuable information as well as questions to dive into in the upcoming Q&A period. So I'm particularly intrigued by the description of the ecosystem and the necessity of all of the players in that system, the funders, the universities, the government partners, and the corporations that will come together to create a productive way for all of us to be able to implement these HIBAR projects, stemming from labs or other basic research in the universities and then outward for the benefit of society. So thank you again for joining us for this video, and we look forward to seeing you on the upcoming videos and for the Q&A in February.
you.